Hello, welcome back to Intuition Nutrition. I'm really excited here to be speaking with Jennifer Fugo, who is joining me from Philly. Jennifer is an expert on gluten-free eating and lifestyle. So Jennifer, thank you and welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here and sharing what I know.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, Jennifer, about how you got into this gluten-free lifestyle.
Well, I got sick. That's typically how most of us end up in
Mm-hmm.
the health and wellness world. We get sick, and our path to better health is what we try to share with others and hopefully illuminate and make the path easier for someone else. And so I got sick when I was in my mid-20s. I just really didn't feel well. I had no energy. I would sleep 9 to 11 hours a night, wake up feeling drugged, and couldn't actually get myself out of bed to get to work. And I had chronic headaches. I had digestive problems, which I thought were normal because it runs in my family and I'd had them for a long time. And I had skin issues. I would get sick every 6 to 8 weeks with colds and viruses. I had like no immunity to anything. And it really was actually the being unable to wake up in the morning, which was what drove me to the doctors. Got a slew of blood tests. Everything looked fine, but I didn't feel fine. And
So
so,
frustrating.
yeah, and a nutritionist looked at my diet and she was like, you eat an awful lot of gluten. And I admit, being Italian, I
Mm-hmm.
did. I loved pasta and bread and all that, the good pastries and
Oh
things.
yeah.
And she asked me if I knew what gluten was and if I'd be willing to take it out for a couple of weeks. Had no clue. So this is like a whole new introductory to food. Even though I was eating a organic whole foods diet, I just didn't know that like the whole organic whole wheat bread and organic whole wheat pasta would be causing a problem.
Right.
And after taking it out, after about 3 days, it was like the sun turned on in my life. I don't know how else to put it, but it was like my stomach quieted. I didn't have any headaches, which was amazing because I used to pop Tylenol all the time.
Wow.
And I just felt so much more energized that I called her and she said, okay, let's do some more testing. And that was when I officially found out that gluten was an issue along with dairy and eggs and some other things. But that was more or less how I ended up here.
Wow. And so you were so inspired that you wanted to help other people. Did you go to school and try to learn a little bit more about it?
I actually am now. A lot of what I've learned is through my own personal experience. I also have a podcast, and I have the blessing of being able to interview doctors and experts and practitioners all over the world who are some of the most famous people in this field and get to ask them questions. And so my father happens to be a physician, and I worked for him for 10 years. So I had some medical background in working with patients, with his patients. And so now it's like I get to ask all these experts
Yeah.
the question from the perspective of the patient, someone who's a little more educated, about the process of what happens when you go to the doctors, because I sort of have that. I'm lucky. I'm blessed to have that
Yes.
background knowledge, but I also know what to ask that'll get really good answers and clear answers for women who are struggling with gluten sensitivity, celiac disease, autoimmunity, and that has been one of the coolest things is the self-education, and now I'm going actually back for a master's degree in nutrition to put all the pieces together and be
Awesome.
able to give back even further.
That's awesome. You know what? And I think that having a degree is a little bit overrated because oftentimes what I've heard is that people that are studying nutrition don't learn quite as much or in the same way as they do from just experience and getting out there and trying new things and talking to people and watching podcasts or listening to podcasts like yours.
Yeah, you know what? It's so fascinating because of all this personal experience, this life experience and work experience that I've had. Now I'm getting the biochemistry and all the nitty-gritty things that, you can't get. Like, you can't figure out, like, what your mitochondria are doing and all this stuff from personal experience.
Right.
But in seeing it from this more scientific perspective, it's giving me so much more respect for the human body and really a sense of awe that your body, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what your condition, your body really does want to support you. It
Right.
really tries so hard. It's amazing. And that's why, one of the things that's become so apparent to me in the past year in going back to school is that we really do have to try for our body as well, because it's trying for us all the time.
Mm,
And when, you're sensitive to a food like with gluten, that means you've really got to give it your all and take gluten out and keep it out, and find a way to stay gluten-free or dairy-free or egg-free or whatever it is that your issue is, because it'll just amplify the success that your body will hopefully have down the road with all of its hard work.
absolutely. So after you went off of gluten and started to discover after the first few days how great you felt, did you slip back and see the difference? Did you try it again to compare?
Well, no. I mean, the
Okay.
thing is that once you go gluten free and you feel such a dramatic difference. I mean, I lost almost 20 pounds. I mean, like my
Wow.
before and after photo is night and day. It was such a change. There was nothing in my mind that said, "Oh, well, I'm just going to go back and eat like some gluten and I'll just
Yeah.
like, lower it." I hear that people do that. "Oh, I'm staying off the gluten. I'm kind of keeping on the low end of things." And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not how it works. So I do know what it's like to get glutened. I
Hmm.
have been glutened. And there were periods of time where, and this was several years ago, and I do talk openly about this, where I really had lost a sense of commitment to myself. And I
Mm.
became so frustrated that here and there I would cheat. And it was not the best thing for me to do. It's not something
Hmm.
I'm proud of, but I
Yeah.
do understand what it's like and why it's so hard for people to stay on a diet, when there's so much, like, family wise, tradition wise.
Hmm.
There's our culture, there's so much around food. And
Yes.
when you're taken away from that, it can become very depressing, very
Hmm.
lonely.
Hmm.
And I realized, though, that at the end of the day, I had to take care of me. I was more important than the food.
Yeah.
And now I love the food that I eat. There's not a choice. If we go to a restaurant, I'm always on my phone ahead of time doing my homework. Like, can I eat there? And if not, I suggest something else. I'm very proactive about what needs to happen in order to take care of me. Because if I don't take care of me, I can't really expect anybody else to do it for me.
You got to preach it. It's so true. People just miss that. They just end up taking care of everybody else or expecting other people to meet their needs. But you got to take care of yourself. It's like the oxygen mask, right? Put it on yourself first before you help somebody else. So do you have any suggestions for people who are trying to stay off of gluten but are having such a hard time when they have, like you say, all these social events, dinners with family, and any good
Well,
suggestions?
Well, the one thing I would say is that, if you're dining out and you're really struggling to stay gluten-free because of work parties and, your friends like to go out to dinner every Friday or you're having a
Hmm.
girls' night out, you've got to take the reins and make sure that you are taken care of. If a person asks me out for dinner, rarely do I say, "Where would you like to go?" Yeah, I
Hmm.
might, I might on rare occasions humor a person. I
Uh-huh.
really don't mean that to sound mean to anyone who asks me to go out. But sometimes I'll be like, okay, maybe they'll suggest a place that I can
Right.
eat at. It has yet to happen, but every once in a while, I am surprised. People do try,
Yeah.
when they know what goes on with eating out with me. But
Mhm.
typically, I will take the reins. I will suggest where we go, and I do not wait for someone else. I don't go, "Oh, okay, I'll figure it out when I get there." That's a big mistake, and that's something that people often make in trying to get like a Chinese restaurant where most of their stuff is made with soy sauce to accommodate their diet. Like, that's not going to happen. So
No.
you've got to take the reins and prepare for that situation.
Hmm.
The other thing that I would say too is in hosting dinners or like family meals and things like that, don't be afraid to actually host something yourself. I
Mm.
got tired of going to parties and not being able to eat anything, so I started hosting parties. And I didn't tell anyone that it was gluten free, because that's sometimes the kiss of death when you have
Yeah.
people that are not gluten free. I just like, "Oh, I made all this food." It is surprising that people never ask if it's gluten free. A good example was at Christmas, I made a lasagna. I hadn't had lasagna in like 5 years, and I was like, I want to make lasagna. I made a gluten free lasagna. It was really good, and I'm eating it. And a very close relative says, "Why are you eating that?
Yeah.
Are you going to get sick?"
They had no idea.
And I was like, I made it, therefore it's gluten-free. And I'm like, oh, it's really good. I
I
was like,
love
okay.
it.
So it goes to show you that people rarely consider if they go to your house that it's going to be all gluten-free. So don't even tell them. Just invite them over, make all the food, and have a great time. It takes a lot of the stress out of the whole situation of you being afraid of what's there and who did what to this, that, or anything else that's on the table. And you don't need to feel that you have to have bread or bread rolls or breadsticks or any of that stuff in order to accommodate people. Just serve gluten-free food. People will be happy. And the other thing I would say is if you have people in your family and in your life that really give you a hard time, you have to ask yourself, how valuable is it to continue having a relationship with them? Like maybe you have a relationship, but you just don't go to dinner at their home. You know, there are going to be people who are not going to support you. It is what it is. You cannot change them. There's something going on with them that they're unable to have empathy or sympathy or compassion or any of those things for you or anyone else's situation that conflicts with what they want to do with their diet and their life. It's okay. Don't take it personally. I know that's hard, but you have to just let them be. And with time, people will slowly come around. And if they don't, you know, it's their loss.
That's right.
It really is. And you've just got to, you know, ask yourself, like, it bothers me to hear that people will go to Thanksgiving and sit there and watch everyone else eat because the people who host dinner every year don't want to serve anything that's gluten-free. I'm like, then why are you going? You know, maybe you have Thanksgiving dinner at your house and then afterwards you go and you visit for 2 hours or something like that. So you're just not there for the meal. And it makes it also clear to that person that you don't appreciate. That's really disrespectful. So, you know, we have to draw lines in the sand of where we're comfortable. And, you know, those are some of the things that I've learned over the years.
Those are really good suggestions. You know, and it's true. You just have to bring your own food if you don't want to eat their food or invite someone to your house. And you're right, don't tell people. I've made that mistake of being like, try my gluten-free birthday cake. And they're like, no thanks.
Yeah, no, don't ever go, oh, well, it's vegan, gluten-free, and all these other things. Don't tell anyone that. Just be like, oh, I made this casserole.
Yeah, they don't want healthy. They just want yummy. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me. This has been really informative. Where can people find out more about you and what you have to offer?
They can go to my website at glutenfreeschool.com and they can find articles, recipes, my book, my podcast, everything is there.
Now, one quick question. Do you think that anybody could benefit from going gluten-free? I'm not going to be the person that's going to say yes, just simply because I think we're all different. And I think it's personally unfair to assume that every single person needs to eat a specific way. I think healthy, yes, but what defines health differs from person to person. So I think we're all each on our own journey, and you've just got to figure it out for yourself, whether gluten-free works for you or not. But if you go gluten-free and after like 2 weeks to a month, you feel dramatically better, what I would say at that point is to go to a gastroenterologist, get tested for celiac disease to find out whether you have that autoimmune disease, because there are ramifications to having something like that. And, you know, then proceed forward from there. But I wouldn't just stick with, oh, I'm sensitive to gluten, because you could actually be doing long-term damage to your health and shortchanging your health if you don't know exactly why you're having a problem with gluten. Great advice. All right. Well, you heard it. Go check her out at theglutenfreeschool.com. Thanks again, Jennifer. It's so nice chatting with you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Tune in next time for more food for your mind, body, and soul.